Life often feels like a constant negotiation between what we hope for, what we fear, and what is right in front of us. We dream of a better tomorrow, but sometimes those dreams pull us so far ahead that we forget to notice today. We wait for the perfect conditions to begin without realizing that life is already happening in this very moment. And when difficulties arrive, as they inevitably do, our first impulse is often resistance rather than curiosity about what they might be here to teach us. 3 timeless reminders echo across centuries of human experience. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Do not cling so tightly to your dreams that you forget the life you are living. And within every difficulty lies an opportunity. At first glance, they may sound like simple motivational phrases, but if you pause with them, you begin to see something deeper, a philosophy of presence, action, and resilience. This reflection will explore 12 different facets of those ideas, 12 ways they can illuminate the path of an ordinary life. Together, we'll slow down enough to notice the present moment, we'll look at how to act with what is available, and we'll learn to see struggle not as an enemy, but as a hidden doorway. Each part will be both a meditation on living and a practical lens for the choices you face every day. And this isn't meant to be a lecture, it's an invitation. As you listen, I invite you to notice your own life, your own struggles, your own hopes, your own overlooked present moments. Because the real meaning of these words doesn't come alive until you connect them with your story. Before we step into the first part, I'd love to hear from you. What does this theme stir inside you? Have you ever discovered a hidden gift inside a difficulty? Share your reflections in the comments. I read them all, and they often add more depth than the script itself. And if this way of exploring life speaks to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. That way we can continue this journey of wisdom and presence together, one quiet step at a time. There is a peculiar irony to being human. While the present is the only time we truly possess, most of us spend little of our lives actually inhabiting it. Our attention drifts backward toward regret or forward toward anticipation. We replay conversations from yesterday, wondering what we should have said. Or we leap ahead to tomorrow's anxieties, deadlines, bills, plans, the imagined reactions of other people. In doing so, we overlook the most fundamental truth of life, that it can only ever be lived now. Think about how easily the present slips through unnoticed. You wake up, check your phone, and already your mind is 10 steps ahead. The messages you need to reply to the meeting you might be late for, the errands you need to run after work. You sip your morning coffee, but instead of tasting it, you're strategizing the rest of your day. Hours blur into one another, and suddenly it is night again. Another day checked off the calendar with little sense that you actually lived it. The value of the present moment lies precisely in its fleeting nature. Every instant is both fragile and irreplaceable. The smile of a loved one, the warmth of sunlight against your face, the quiet pause between one breath and the next. These are not grand achievements, but they are the raw material of a meaningful life. When we lose sight of the present, we lose sight of life itself. Modern culture amplifies this problem. Productivity apps performance goals, and endless comparisons keep us oriented toward the future, always chasing what is next. The implicit message is you are not enough as you are. Happiness lies just beyond the horizon, after the next raise, the next purchase, the next accomplishment. But here is the quiet paradox. Even if you achieve those milestones when you get there, it will still be now. The future is an illusion. It never arrives in the form you expect. All that exists is an ever-renewing present. This is not an argument against ambition or growth. Dreams matter, plans matter, but they are only meaningful if we know how to root ourselves in the soil of this moment. Without presence, dreams become a mirage that pulls us forward but never nourishes us. Presence transforms even the smallest actions: washing dishes, walking down the street, listening to a friend, into opportunities for connection and gratitude. To value the present moment is to realize that it is enough. That does not mean it is perfect or painless. Sometimes the present moment is heavy with grief or filled with boredom. But even those experiences, when accepted without resistance, can be profound teachers. Grief reveals the depth of our capacity to love. Boredom invites us to rediscover simple wonder. Pain, while unwelcome, forces us into contact with the rawness of being alive. When we allow ourselves to be fully present, life opens with textures we could not otherwise perceive. The present is the only place where action can occur. You cannot change yesterday, nor can you act tomorrow. You can only make choices now. And it is through those choices repeated over time that your future unfolds. In that sense, the present is not merely valuable, it is everything. One of the most powerful ways to reclaim presence is through attention to the senses. Notice what you can hear right now: the hum of a machine, the faint rustle of leaves, or perhaps silence itself. Notice what you can feel: the weight of your body on a chair, the temperature of the air against your skin. These small anchor points remind you that you are here. When you touch the present with awareness, you interrupt the endless current of thought. You remember that life is not lived inside your head. It is happening all around you right in this moment. Another way is through gratitude. When you pause to acknowledge the simple gifts of now, the breath you are taking, the food you are about to eat, the presence of another person, you shift from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude doesn't require grand events. It flourishes in the ordinary. And in recognizing the ordinary, you rediscover the miracle of existence. This practice of valuing the present is not about detaching from reality or pretending everything is beautiful. It is about aligning yourself with what is real rather than chasing what is not. It is about letting go of the illusion that life will begin once you've solved all your problems or achieved all your goals. Life is already here. The invitation is simply to notice. When you consider how brief and unpredictable existence is, the urgency of presence becomes even clearer. None of us knows how many days remain. We assume we have time to mend relationships, time to follow our passions, time to truly live. But in truth, the only guarantee is this breath, this moment. To honor it is to honor life itself. And so the value of the present moment is not abstract philosophy. It is the foundation of a meaningful existence. Without it, everything else is hollow. With it, even the simplest life can radiate richness. The question is not whether you have enough time. The question is, are you awake for the time you already have? The Stoics, writing almost 2,000 years ago, grasped this same truth with clarity. Epictetus taught that we have control only over our judgments and actions in the present. Everything else is beyond us. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, reminded himself daily that the present is all we ever lose, for it is the only time we have. To waste the present in distraction or anxiety is to throw away life itself. For the Stoic presence was not just mindfulness, but discipline, a commitment to engage fully with whatever is in front of you, no matter how mundane or difficult. By focusing on the task at hand, be it leading an empire or tying your sandals, they cultivated peace of mind. Their wisdom remains urgent today. Freedom and strength are not found in controlling tomorrow, but in inhabiting today. There is a universal temptation that quietly erodes the force of our lives waiting until we have more time, more money, more clarity, more courage, waiting for the perfect conditions before we dare to act. Yet the truth is stark, perfect conditions never arrive. Life is never completely stable, never entirely free of obstacles, never guaranteed to align with our plans. If we insist on waiting until everything feels ideal, we will wait forever. Acting when life isn't perfect means refusing to let limitation paralyze you. It means acknowledging what is missing, but choosing to work with what remains. Every creator, every thinker, every person who has brought something of value into the world has done so in imperfect circumstances. They acted despite uncertainty, despite lack, despite fear. The path forward is rarely illuminated in full. More often, you only see a few steps ahead, and you must trust that moving will reveal the rest of the way. Why is it so difficult to act in imperfection? Because the human mind craves certainty. We want guarantees of success, of approval, of safety, but guarantees are illusions. Life offers only probabilities, and possibilities, never certainties. To act despite imperfection is to embrace reality, while to demand perfection is to cling to fantasy. The person who acts is in conversation with the world. The one who waits is locked in a monologue with their own fears. Consider how much of your life might already be deferred. The dream you keep postponing until you have more experience. The conversation you never begin because you're not sure of the right words. The changes you put off until you have more confidence, more support, more clarity. Each delay is justified in the moment, but collectively they become a way of life. Endless preparation without arrival, endless rehearsal without performance. It does not mean ignoring preparation, planning, or responsibility. It means recognizing that progress does not require perfection. You do not need to be completely ready to begin. In fact, readiness often emerges through the act itself. Courage is not a precondition for action. It is often the result of it. Confidence is not something you wait to acquire before starting. It grows as you step forward. When you commit to acting with what you have, you develop a crucial resilience. Instead of resenting limitations, you learn to innovate within them. Instead of lamenting scarcity, you cultivate resourcefulness. This shift is not just psychological, it is transformative. By acting despite imperfection, you train yourself to see constraints as possibilities, not prisons. Here are 2 questions worth pausing with. What are you postponing right now, simply because the conditions are not perfect? What is one small action you could take today, even if it feels incomplete or insufficient? Reflecting on these questions is not meant to induce guilt, but to reveal the hidden spaces where life has quietly been placed on hold. Sometimes those spaces are small and ordinary, calling someone you care about, writing down the first paragraph of an idea, moving your body for 10 minutes. Sometimes they are larger, choosing to pursue a career change, to end an unhealthy relationship, to take the risk of beginning something new. But whatever the scale, the principle remains. You can only move forward by beginning now, not later. It requires acknowledging that you cannot control everything and that mistakes will be made. But it also carries a quiet dignity, the courage to show up as you are, rather than endlessly polishing yourself into someone you imagine you must be. Life rarely rewards the fantasy of perfection, but it does reward persistence. The person who moves, however falteringly, is always further along than the one who remains still. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in human life. A single small act can break inertia, and set a cascade of changes in motion. Begin tidying one corner of a room, and suddenly the energy to continue arises. Write a single paragraph, and the next begins to form in your mind. Call one person, and the silence of isolation begins to soften. By moving, you open channels that waiting keeps closed. It is worth asking yourself which is more costly, the risk of acting imperfectly or the cost of endless inaction. Mistakes can be corrected, efforts can be refined, but lost time can never be reclaimed. Each day surrendered to hesitation is a day removed from the finite store of your life. At the end, the regret most people feel is not of what they did imperfectly, but of what they never dared to attempt. Choosing to act in imperfect conditions is also an act of faith. Not necessarily religious faith, but the faith that the process itself has value, that stepping forward without complete knowledge will teach you what you need to know, that resources appear when you are already in motion, that clarity comes not before but during the journey. Ultimately, acting when life isn't perfect is a practice of liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of someday. It anchors you in the present moment where life is actually unfolding. It teaches you that progress is not about flawless execution, but about willingness. And it reminds you that you are not defined by hesitation, but by the steps you take despite it. If you were to pause right now and survey your life, where might you take that step? Perhaps it is small, invisible to others, but it matters to you. Perhaps it is bold and terrifying, the kind of step that redefines your future. Either way, the same truth applies. The only time you can act is now. An imperfect action is infinitely more powerful than perfect inaction. The Stoics were clear-eyed about imperfection. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminded himself daily that the world would not conform to his wishes, and that neither would he ever be entirely ready for what awaited him. Yet his answer was simple act anyway. Do not waste what remains of your life in speculation about others when it is in your power to act rightly today. For the Stoic, waiting for perfection was folly, because perfection belongs to the gods, not to us. Our task is to engage with what is here, with the tools we possess, however limited. By acting within imperfection, we align ourselves with nature itself, unpredictable, incomplete, and yet always moving forward. To the Stoics, action was not about ensuring flawless outcomes, but about practicing virtue in each choice moment by moment. Perfectionism disguises itself as virtue. At first glance, it looks like discipline, ambition, even a form of high standards. The perfectionist appears careful, committed, unwilling to settle for less. But beneath the surface, perfectionism is often not about excellence at all. It is about fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of vulnerability. Where discipline frees you to grow, perfectionism quietly suffocates you. Perfectionism convinces you that nothing you create, nothing you attempt is ever enough. A project is delayed because it isn't flawless. A message is never sent because the words aren't just right. A dream is postponed indefinitely because you are still not ready. Instead of producing brilliance, perfectionism produces paralysis. Life slips by not because you lack talent, but because you demanded the impossible before you dared to begin. At its core, perfectionism is the refusal to be human. To be human is to be limited, fallible, and ever learning. It is to stumble, to make mistakes, to try again. But the perfectionist rejects this reality, insisting instead on the myth of flawlessness. It is like asking a tree to grow without ever shedding leaves, or asking the sea to be calm without waves. Perfectionism is not only unrealistic, it is unnatural. The costs of this mindset are profound. Creativity suffers because nothing feels good enough to share. Relationships suffer because perfectionists often demand from others what they cannot even meet themselves. Even joy suffers because the perfectionist never allows themselves to rest in the good, always chasing an elusive better. The promise of perfection is endless striving without satisfaction, an exhausting treadmill that leads nowhere. Ironically, perfectionism does not prevent failure, it guarantees it. For to demand perfection is to set a bar that cannot be reached, ensuring disappointment. Meanwhile, those who accept imperfection and keep moving forward are the ones who learn, adapt, and ultimately succeed. History is filled with masterpieces that were imperfect discoveries, that were accidental inventions that arose from mistakes. Progress comes not from perfection, but from persistence. Escaping the trap begins with redefining success. Instead of asking, "Is this flawless?" you ask, "Is this honest? Is this meaningful? Does this move me forward?" When the measure shifts from impossible standards to authentic engagement, the paralysis begins to dissolve. Success becomes less about being untouchable and more about being genuine. This does not mean celebrating mediocrity, but rather embracing process over product. You acknowledge that excellence is built through iterations, and that the rough, awkward first attempt is an essential step toward refinement. The musician must play countless wrong notes before mastering a melody. The writer must draft countless clumsy sentences before a paragraph sings. To demand perfection at the beginning is to deny yourself the path to improvement. Another key to escaping perfectionism is learning to differentiate between care and control. Care motivates you to give your best effort. Control insists that only a flawless outcome is acceptable. Care allows room for mistakes and growth. Control crushes both. When you approach life with care, you respect the work without strangling it. Ask yourself, what is the cost of holding on to perfectionism? How many ideas have you never tested? How many words never spoken? How many opportunities never seized? Simply because you were afraid of being imperfect. And what might happen if you replace perfection with presence? If you valued progress over flawlessness? The antidote to perfectionism is courage. Courage to be seen in your incompleteness. It is allowing your work, your voice, your presence to stand as they are without endless polishing. It is letting the world witness your humanity, not your illusion. This courage is liberating. When you stop demanding perfection, you discover the freedom to experiment, to risk, to create. You discover that being human, with all your flaws, is more compelling than pretending to be flawless. There is also compassion in this shift, not only toward yourself, but toward others. When you release your own impossible standards, you stop imposing them on the people around you. Relationships soften, collaboration deepens, joy returns. For once, you allow imperfection not as a failure, but as the common language of being alive. Perfectionism often whispers that you are not ready, not capable, not enough. But the truth is the opposite. You are enough in your imperfection. What you create, what you offer may not be flawless, but it may be exactly what someone else needs. A clumsy word can still comfort a friend. An imperfect song can still stir a heart. A flawed attempt can still move the world forward. To escape perfectionism is not to lower your standards, it is to anchor them in reality. It is to pursue excellence through presence, persistence, and authenticity rather than through unattainable ideals. It is to measure your life, not by whether it was spotless, but by whether it was wholehearted. So consider, what would change if you allowed yourself to be imperfect? What doors might open if you risked being seen as you are, rather than waiting to become someone you never can? The answer may be the key to reclaiming your life from the quiet tyranny of perfectionism. The Stoics remind us that perfection is not the goal of human life, virtue is. Seneca wrote, "No man has been wise at all times," acknowledging that even the most disciplined philosophers stumbled. What mattered was not flawlessness, but the continual return to principle. For the Stoics, excellence lay in effort and integrity, not in achieving an impossible standard. Marcus Aurelius himself admitted his mistakes in his journals, yet saw them as opportunities for growth. To be Stoic was not to be perfect, but to live in alignment with reason and virtue, however imperfectly in each moment. The trap of perfectionism collapses under this wisdom. Our task is not to perform life without error, but to embody sincerity, resilience, and courage. In that practice, imperfection becomes not a threat, but the very ground on which wisdom grows. Dreams are essential. They pull us forward, ignite our imagination, and give us direction. A life without dreams risks becoming mechanical, a mere repetition of routines without vision. Yet dreams, when clung to too tightly, can become prisons. They can distract us from the life actually unfolding in front of us, from the richness of the present moment. To live meaningfully requires not only the ability to dream, but the wisdom to balance those dreams with reality. The danger is not in dreaming, but in becoming so absorbed by an imagined future that we neglect the only place life can truly happen, the present. How often do we say, "I will finally live once I achieve this goal," or "happiness will come when I arrive there"? Such thinking postpones life indefinitely. The finish line keeps moving further away. Even when one dream is achieved, another appears, and the cycle of delay continues. Dreams, in this sense, can become seductive mirages. They shimmer on the horizon, always promising fulfillment, but receding as we approach. If we make happiness conditional on their arrival, we risk never arriving at all. Dreams should inspire us, but they cannot replace the work of living now. Reality, on the other hand, is often less glamorous, but far more substantial. Reality is the daily conversation with a friend, the work you put into your craft, the sensation of breath filling your lungs. Reality is not as polished as a dream. It is messy, unpredictable, sometimes painful, but it is also where joy, connection, and growth take place. To neglect reality in favor of dreams is to miss the very substance of life. The task then is not to abandon dreams, but to root them in reality. A dream without grounding is fantasy. A dream connected to reality becomes vision. To live well is to allow your dreams to guide you while keeping your feet firmly on the ground. You let them shape your choices, but you do not let them blind you to the present. One way to balance dreams and reality is to distinguish between destination and journey. Dreams are often framed as destinations, the promotion, the degree, the perfect relationship, the ideal home. But the journey is where you spend nearly all your time. If you cannot find meaning in the process, if the dream only matters at the end, you may discover that the destination feels hollow once reached. A better approach is to shape dreams that dignify the journey itself, so that each step holds value, not just the last. Another way is to practice presence, even while pursuing ambition. You might dream of writing a book, but presence means enjoying the act of writing a page today. You might dream of running a marathon, but presence means appreciating each training run, each heartbeat, each mile. Dreams provide structure, but presence provides nourishment. Without presence, dreams are just empty scaffolds. It is also important to recognize that reality sets limits. Not every dream can be realized in the form we imagine. Some may need to be reshaped, others released entirely. This is not failure, but adaptation. Life requires us to be flexible to adjust our dreams as circumstances change. Clinging rigidly to a dream that no longer serves us can cause suffering. Wisdom lies in knowing when to persevere and when to let go. Ask yourself which dreams inspire you and which trap you, which give you energy and which drain it, which are aligned with your values and which are just borrowed from societal expectations. These questions help you discern which dreams are worth weaving into reality and which should be set down. There is a profound freedom in realizing that dreams are not life itself. They are guides, not gods. They are tools, not masters. To mistake them for life is to live always in anticipation, never in presence. To see them clearly is to live with both hope and groundedness, with vision and humility. Balancing dreams with reality is ultimately about wholeness. Too much dreaming and you drift into illusion. Too much fixation on reality and you may lose sight of possibility. But when the two meet, when your dreams inspire action in the present, you find harmony. You discover that life is not about choosing between vision and presence, but about allowing them to dance together. So perhaps the challenge is not whether you should dream, but how you dream. Do you dream in a way that nourishes the present, or in a way that steals from it? Do your dreams remind you of what matters now, or do they convince you to neglect it? The answer to these questions determines whether your dreams become bridges or barriers. Dreams are meant to be companions on the journey, not substitutes for living it. Reality, however imperfect, is always more alive than the most perfect dream. And the miracle is that when we honor reality fully, we often find our dreams reshaped in ways far richer than we could have imagined. The Stoics were cautious about placing happiness in the future. Epictetus warned against tying your well-being to things outside your control, many of which live only in the imagination. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that confine yourself to the present, for the present is where duty and virtue can be practiced. Dreams may guide your direction, but the Stoic insists that virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance must be lived now, not someday. Seneca even cautioned against the endless deferral of life writing. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. For the Stoic to be consumed by dreams at the expense of the present is to waste life. Their wisdom invites us to use dreams as tools, but never to forget that reality is the ground of existence, the only soil in which virtue can grow. The pursuit of goals often blinds us to the beauty of the path itself. We are conditioned to think of life in terms of milestones, graduations, promotions, marriages, achievements. These are the markers we chase, believing they hold the secret to fulfillment. But between these milestones lies the vast majority of our existence, the daily steps, the slow progress, the often overlooked ordinary. If we are not careful, we spend our entire lives rushing past the very moments that make life worth living. The obsession with destinations creates a subtle form of restlessness. Each time we reach a goal, the satisfaction is fleeting. No sooner is the achievement in hand than the mind leaps ahead to the next ambition. The pattern becomes endless striving, arriving striving again. Joy becomes postponed, always deferred to a later point that never fully arrives. The cost of this mindset is immense. We never settle into our lives long enough to savor them. The truth is that life is not lived at the finish line, but along the trail. The richness of experience emerges not from crossing a distant endpoint, but from how you walk, how you notice, how you open yourself to what is happening right now. A journey-centered perspective shifts the focus from acquisition to appreciation. It allows you to recognize that the value of a goal is not only in achieving it, but in who you become along the way. The destination might be mastery, but the journey is filled with small victories. The first time you understand a concept, the gradual improvement in your ability, the moments when effort finally clicks into insight. If you only measure success by final mastery, you miss the joy of these steps. But if you allow each stage to matter, the process itself becomes meaningful. It is in savoring the taste of food while cooking, rather than rushing to finish the meal. It is in appreciating the sound of laughter during a conversation, instead of worrying about how long it will last. It is in noticing your breath and heartbeat during exercise, not just the numbers on the scale. Joy comes not from reaching, but from noticing. When the focus is only on the destination, setbacks feel devastating, as though the entire purpose has been thwarted. But when the journey itself is the source of meaning, setbacks become part of the story. A detour, a challenge, or even a failure adds texture to the path rather than ending it. The journey view teaches you to value the process, to see growth in struggle and wisdom in obstacles. Destinations are often beyond your control. Circumstances may delay or deny them. But the journey, how you engage with each moment, how you respond to each challenge, is always yours. You cannot guarantee the outcome, but you can choose the way you travel. And that choice is where freedom and joy reside. Ask yourself, what if joy is not something at the end, but something available in each step? What if success is not about arriving, but about walking well? These questions reframe life, from a desperate chase to a mindful exploration. Each day you move toward a goal, you accumulate experiences, skills, and insights. Even if the final outcome never materializes, nothing is wasted. The effort, the connections, the growth, all of it enriches your life. The finish line, if reached, is simply the punctuation mark at the end of a sentence already filled with meaning. It requires noticing what is here instead of racing toward what is not yet. It asks you to listen to the rhythm of your own steps, to celebrate progress without demanding arrival. It asks you to trust that the unfolding of life, with all its detours and delays, is not an obstacle to happiness, but the very ground of it. When you live this way, even the smallest acts become luminous. Walking down a street becomes an encounter with beauty. Working through a challenge becomes an expression of strength. Sharing a meal becomes a ritual of connection. Life, no longer postponed, becomes immediate, vibrant, alive. So pause and reflect. Where in your life are you rushing past the journey? Where might you slow down enough to find joy in the steps themselves? The answers to these questions can transform not only how you pursue your goals, but how you inhabit your life. The Stoics often emphasize the importance of the path rather than the outcome. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good, not distant achievements. Seneca observed that the wise person does not wait for life to begin after certain goals are met, but lives fully in each day. Their philosophy echoes the truth that the journey is where virtue is practiced, where patience is tested, where resilience is built. For the Stoic, joy is not in controlling the future, but in cultivating excellence in the present step. Obstacles are not interruptions of the journey, they are the journey. To walk each step with attention and virtue is to live well, regardless of where the road ultimately leads. Life has a way of presenting us with obstacles that feel almost tailor-made to expose our weaknesses. A sudden illness interrupts our plans. A loss of income shatters our sense of security. A broken relationship leaves us questioning our worth. These difficulties are rarely invited, and yet they arrive demanding our attention. At first, they seem like cruel interruptions, detours from the life we wanted. But if we shift our perspective, they can be understood as tests, challenges that reveal who we are, what we value, and how much we are willing to grow. In comfort, it is easy to believe we are patient, strong, or wise. But difficulty exposes the truth. Patience is not measured when everything runs smoothly. It is measured when delays frustrate us. Strength is not proven when life is easy. It is proven when hardship presses down. Wisdom is not revealed in calm waters, but in stormy seas. In this sense, difficulties do not create character so much as uncover it. They show us the difference between who we think we are and who we truly are. Seeing difficulties as tests changes the entire emotional landscape. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we ask, "What is this revealing in me?" The first question frames us as victims of fate, powerless and resentful. The second frames us as participants in growth, capable of responding with intention. This shift does not make hardship pleasant, but it does make it purposeful. Like muscles that grow stronger through resistance, the human spirit strengthens by meeting obstacles. Each challenge, though painful, is an invitation to expand your capacity. The failed project that forces you to rethink your strategy, the rejection that teaches you humility, the setback that cultivates perseverance. All of these moments, if endured and learned from, become training grounds for resilience. Tests hurt. They can overwhelm, frustrate, even break us open. But the presence of pain does not negate their value. In fact, pain often marks the threshold of growth. Just as physical training requires discomfort to build strength, emotional and spiritual growth often requires the fire of trial. It is important to note that difficulties test not only endurance, but also alignment with values. When pressured, do you compromise your integrity to escape discomfort? Do you cling to resentment, or do you choose forgiveness? Do you collapse into despair, or do you summon courage? These moments reveal the depth of our convictions. Words and ideals are easy in theory. Difficulties test whether they hold in practice. Sometimes the test lies not in dramatic suffering, but in subtle persistence. The grind of daily stress, the monotony of routine, the fatigue of responsibilities, these two test our patience and our ability to find meaning. Not every challenge is a grand crisis. Many are quiet examinations of endurance. Passing these tests requires not heroics, but consistency, the quiet discipline of showing up day after day. Ask yourself when difficulty arises, what story do you tell about it? Is it a punishment, an accident, a meaningless intrusion? Or is it a teacher, a mirror? A forge, the story you choose, shapes your response. If you see hardship as meaningless, despair grows. If you see it as a test, resilience grows. Perspective more than circumstance determines whether you emerge weaker or stronger. It is also worth recognizing that not all tests are won in the conventional sense. Sometimes we stumble, sometimes we fail. But even failure has lessons to offer. To fail a test is not to be condemned. It is to be instructed. Each failure reveals limits, invites reflection, and prepares you for the next challenge. Life is generous in this way. It will give you the same lesson again until you are ready to learn it. Ultimately, difficulties are tests, not because the universe seeks to torment us, but because life itself is a process of unfolding. Growth demands friction, change demands challenge. Without difficulty, we remain stagnant, never knowing the depth of our potential. With difficulty, we are stretched, reshaped, and refined. So the next time hardship enters your life, pause before labeling it as merely unfortunate. Consider what it is testing in you. Is it asking for patience, for courage, for humility, for faith? When viewed this way, difficulty becomes not just an obstacle, but a curriculum. And every test passed, no matter how small, expands your capacity to live fully. For the Stoics, life itself was a series of tests. Marcus Aurelius wrote that obstacles are opportunities to practice virtue. Epictetus reminded his students not to wish for an easier life, but to wish for the strength to meet what comes. Seneca compared adversity to fire. It consumes the weak, but strengthens the strong, forging them like steel. From their perspective, each difficulty was a divine examination, an arena in which virtue could be demonstrated. Patience, courage, temperance, justice. These were not abstract ideals, but qualities tested in the reality of hardship. To live stoically was to welcome tests not with bitterness, but with resolve, knowing that every challenge is an invitation to practice virtue. Seen this way, difficulty is not the enemy of life, but the training ground of wisdom. Adversity has a way of arriving uninvited, like an unexpected storm that scatters your carefully arranged plans. Illness, rejection, financial setbacks, broken trust. These are the events most of us would prefer to avoid. Yet paradoxically, it is often in the very heart of adversity that new opportunities emerge. The circumstances that feel like barriers can become doorways. What once looked like the end of a road can, with a shift of perspective, become the beginning of a new path. When you are in the middle of struggle, it feels only like loss. The weight of adversity can obscure any sense of possibility, but history, philosophy, and even personal experience all suggest the same truth. Opportunity is often disguised as difficulty. The challenge is not whether opportunities exist, but whether we are willing to perceive them. One of the most profound opportunities in adversity is the chance to discover inner resources you did not know you had. In ordinary times, we rarely test the limits of our resilience, creativity, or courage. But adversity presses us to dig deeper. It forces us to innovate, to adapt, to grow in ways comfort never demands. Many people looking back realize that their greatest strength was forged not in ease, but in crisis. When life is disrupted, distractions fall away. You begin to see what truly matters. A health scare, for example, can shift your focus from superficial pursuits to deeper values, relationships, well-being, purpose. A financial loss can teach you what is truly essential versus what is merely excess. In this way, adversity strips life down to its essentials, revealing opportunities to live with greater authenticity. Those who suffer gain insight into the suffering of others. Adversity softens the heart, reminding us of our shared vulnerability. What once felt distant, the pain of a stranger, the struggle of a neighbor, becomes relatable. Out of personal trials can emerge a greater capacity for compassion, a willingness to reach out and support others. Many careers, inventions, and creative endeavors were born out of difficulty. A failed project may redirect you to a path better suited to your talents. A rejected opportunity may push you toward an even greater one. Closed doors often redirect us toward open ones we would never have noticed otherwise. What feels like loss in the moment may reveal itself later as liberation. Still, recognizing opportunity and adversity requires conscious choice. The mind naturally resists pain, clinging to what was lost, lamenting what is no longer possible. To find opportunity, we must shift from fixation on the obstacle to curiosity about what it makes possible. This does not deny grief or minimize suffering. It acknowledges them, but also asks, what now? What can be learned? What might grow from this? Ask yourself, what challenges in your past led unexpectedly to new beginnings? Which setbacks taught you lessons that became turning points? These reflections remind you that adversity has always carried seeds of opportunity, even if you could not see them at the time. Another key insight is that opportunities in adversity are rarely immediate. In the thick of difficulty, clarity is clouded. Often, it is only with distance looking back that the pattern becomes visible. This is why patience matters. You may not see the opportunity now, but that does not mean it does not exist. Life often reveals its gifts, slowly after the storm has passed. Adversity reminds us that we are not invincible, not in total control. While this realization is uncomfortable, it is also freeing. By accepting our vulnerability, we stop chasing illusions of control and start engaging life with openness. Humility allows us to see possibilities we would otherwise overlook. Opportunities in adversity are not limited to personal growth. They can ripple outward. Communities often strengthen in times of crisis. Shared hardship draws people together, fostering solidarity and cooperation. Disasters, though tragic, often bring out acts of courage and generosity that might never have surfaced otherwise. Adversity then becomes a catalyst not just for individual transformation, but for collective renewal. Ultimately, the opportunity within adversity is to be transformed, to come out, not just having survived, but having changed, more resilient, more compassionate, more aligned with what matters. Adversity asks, will you let this break you, or will you let this remake you? The answer lies not in the event itself, but in your response. So the next time adversity arrives, and it surely will pause, look closely at the rubble of what was lost. Somewhere in it may be the foundation of something new. Somewhere in the darkness may be a doorway. The opportunity is not always obvious, but it is there waiting to be claimed. For the Stoics, adversity was never meaningless. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, obstacles are not detours, but the very path itself. Seneca observed that fortune tests the strong through hardship, not indulgence, and that adversity is the forge in which virtue is tempered. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control external events, we can always control how we interpret and use them. This mindset transforms adversity from an enemy into an ally, from an obstacle into an opportunity for virtue. The Stoic does not deny suffering, but insists that within every trial lies the chance to practice courage, patience, and wisdom. To live stoically is to meet adversity not with despair, but with the conviction that even pain can be purposeful. The way we see the world shapes the way we live in it. Two people can face the same event. One calls it disaster, the other calls it opportunity. One feels trapped, the other discovers freedom. The difference does not lie in the event itself, but in perspective. Perspective is the lens through which we interpret reality, and while we cannot always change circumstances, we can choose to shift the lens. In doing so, we change not only our experience of life, but also our capacity to act wisely within it. A rainy day can be interpreted as ruin for plans or as nourishment for the earth. A rejection can be seen as humiliation or as redirection towards something better. The situation is the same, but the story we tell about it is different. That story shapes our emotions, our actions, and ultimately our destiny. Why then do we often cling to narrow or negative perspectives? Because the mind is conditioned to protect us. It scans for danger, magnifies threats, and resists uncertainty. This tendency, useful for survival, can distort our view of reality, making us see obstacles where possibilities exist. Without awareness, we live inside a story of limitation rather than potential. Changing perspective does not mean denying pain or pretending everything is positive. It means widening the frame, allowing new interpretations to emerge. When you change perspective, you acknowledge the challenge while also asking, what else might this mean? What else might this allow? In this way, perspective becomes a tool of resilience. One method of shifting perspective is reframing. Instead of saying, "This is happening to me," you say, "This is happening for me." The event remains difficult, but the meaning shifts from punishment to possibility. Another method is zooming out. In the intensity of the moment, problems feel absolute. But when you imagine looking back a year later, many problems shrink in importance. Perspective reminds us that time changes everything and that most difficulties are temporary. When you see through another person's eyes, your own view softens. A harsh comment, for instance, may be less about your failure and more about their struggle. A disagreement may be less a personal attack and more a reflection of difference in background or pain. Empathy reframes conflict, transforming resentment into understanding. It means admitting that your first interpretation may not be complete or accurate. It means letting go of certainty and allowing complexity. This humility is difficult in a culture that prizes being right, but it is liberating. By loosening your grip on rigid interpretations, you open yourself to richer possibilities. Ask yourself, where in your life are you locked into a single story? Which events have you labeled as purely negative without considering alternative meanings? What might shift if you ask different questions? These reflections can break the trance of fixed perspective and invite freedom. You are not merely discovering meaning, you are shaping it. Life is raw material, and perspective is the art of sculpting it into significance. This power is not about escaping reality, but about engaging it with imagination. You cannot always choose what happens, but you can choose the story you tell. That story, repeated daily, becomes your life. It evolves as you grow. Something that once felt like tragedy may later be seen as blessing. What once seemed unbearable may later be remembered as the turning point of strength. This evolution reminds us to hold perspective lightly, knowing that meaning unfolds over time. By practicing perspective shifts, we cultivate resilience, creativity, and peace. Resilience because we no longer collapse under hardship, but search for new angles. Creativity because we see multiple pathways where once there was only one. Peace because we release the burden of rigid interpretations and rest in openness. Ultimately, perspective is the difference between living as a victim of circumstance or as an agent of possibility. It is the choice to widen your gaze, to see beyond the obvious, to embrace complexity. And it is this choice, repeated in countless small moments, that shapes the quality of your life. Notice the story you are telling yourself. Ask if another story is possible. In that pause, perspective shifts, and with it, your entire experience. The Stoics understood that suffering often arises not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Epictetus taught men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. This principle is the essence of perspective. An insult is only an injury if you choose to see it as such. A loss is only devastation if you refuse to perceive what it might teach. Marcus Aurelius practiced reframing daily in his journal, reminding himself to view difficulties as part of nature's order, not personal misfortune. For the Stoics, perspective was not passive optimism, but disciplined perception, training the mind to see events as opportunities for virtue. By mastering perspective, they turned adversity into growth and chaos into order. Their wisdom endures as a reminder that life's meaning depends less on events than on how we choose to see them. There is a quiet strength in acceptance that often goes unnoticed. In a culture that glorifies control mastery and relentless striving, acceptance can appear weak, even passive. Yet true acceptance is anything but resignation. It is not about giving up on life, but about making peace with reality as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. This peace does not paralyze us. It liberates us. When we stop fighting against what already exists, we free our energy to engage more wisely with what we can change. No matter how disciplined or intelligent we are, some forces remain beyond our command. The passing of time, the choices of others, the inevitability of change, the presence of loss. We can exhaust ourselves resisting these truths, but resistance does not stop them, it only deepens suffering. Acceptance, on the other hand, softens the grip of frustration. It allows us to flow with reality instead of being crushed beneath it. One of the most profound expressions of acceptance is the ability to face pain without denial. Pain is unavoidable, physical, emotional, existential. But much of our suffering arises not from pain itself, but from the refusal to accept it. We say, "This should not be happening," and in that protest, we double our burden. Acceptance does not remove pain, but it removes the extra layer of anguish that comes from resistance. It lets us meet pain with clarity rather than resentment. To accept ourselves does not mean ignoring flaws, but recognizing that imperfection is part of the human condition. Growth comes not from self-hatred, but from honest acceptance of where we are. Similarly, to accept others does not mean excusing harmful behavior, but recognizing that no one is flawless. This acceptance fosters compassion, patience, and the ability to relate authentically without constant disappointment. Life is unpredictable. Outcomes rarely unfold exactly as planned. When we cling to certainty, every surprise feels like a threat. But when we accept uncertainty as inherent to existence, we become flexible. Instead of being broken by the unexpected, we adapt. Acceptance turns uncertainty from enemy into companion, teaching us to live with openness rather than fear. It is not about letting life happen to us without response. Acceptance is the foundation for wise action. Only when we see reality clearly, without denial, without distortion, can we respond effectively. Refusing to accept reality is like trying to navigate with a false map. Every step leads us astray. Acceptance gives us the accurate map so that even if the terrain is difficult, we can move with purpose. Ask yourself, what realities in your life are you resisting right now? Is it a loss that cannot be reversed? A relationship that has ended? A limitation of circumstance or body? How much energy is consumed by fighting what cannot be undone? And what might shift if you allowed yourself to accept it, not as approval, but as acknowledgement? Once we stop demanding that life conform to our will, we discover space for gratitude. Even in hardship, there are moments of beauty. A kind word, a sunrise, a breath. Acceptance opens the heart to these moments. It teaches us to live not in perpetual struggle against reality, but in harmony with it, finding dignity even in difficulty. Those who resist reality shatter under its weight. Those who accept bend without breaking. Like bamboo in the wind, acceptance allows flexibility. It does not prevent storms, but it prevents collapse. In this way, acceptance is not weakness, but endurance. It is the strength to stand in truth without retreating into illusion. Acceptance ultimately is an act of love, love for life, as it is, rather than as we demand it to be. It does not mean we stop striving for improvement or justice. It means we stop waging war against the unchangeable. In that surrender, we discover freedom. We are no longer enslaved by impossible demands. We are no longer defined by resistance. We are present, open, alive. The Stoics placed acceptance at the heart of their philosophy. Epictetus taught that freedom comes not from controlling events, but from aligning our will with what happens. He urged his students to distinguish between what is within their control and what is not, and to accept the latter without bitterness. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make of it. For him, acceptance was not passivity, but cooperation with nature's unfolding. Seneca went further, advising that the wise person loves their fate, not merely endures it, a principle later captured in the phrase amor fati, love of one's fate. Acceptance, then, was not resignation, but harmony with reality, a way of living with strength and serenity amid uncertainty. Mindfulness is the art of paying attention to the present moment, to what is here and now, without judgment or distraction. In a world flooded with noise, speed, and endless demands for attention, mindfulness offers a radical alternative. The choice to pause, to notice, to truly live where life is happening. It is simple in concept but transformative in practice, because mindfulness teaches us not only how to be present, but also how to meet reality with clarity and compassion. Most of us live much of our lives on autopilot, thinking of the past, planning for the future, scrolling through distractions without really noticing the details of our experience. We eat without tasting, walk without seeing, listen without hearing. Mindfulness interrupts this pattern. It asks, what is happening right now? What do you feel in your body? What thoughts are passing through your mind? What emotions are present by asking these questions? Mindfulness restores the vividness of ordinary life. The lessons of mindfulness begin with presence. Life unfolds moment by moment, but if you are not attentive, you miss it. Mindfulness reminds us that each moment is unique and unrepeatable. The breath you take now will never return. The sound in the room, the expression on someone's face, the sensations in your body once gone, they are gone. When you practice mindfulness, you honor the fleeting nature of life by truly experiencing it as it happens. The mind has a habit of labeling everything good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant. These judgments often intensify our suffering. A thought arises, and we condemn ourselves for thinking it. A feeling emerges, and we decide it is unacceptable. Mindfulness teaches a different approach to observe without clinging or rejecting. A thought is just a thought. A feeling is just a feeling. By observing with curiosity instead of judgment, we create space for understanding and compassion. When we pay attention closely, we see that everything changes. A sensation rises and fades. An emotion surges and passes. A thought appears and dissolves. This constant flux reveals the futility of clinging. Nothing stays, whether pleasure or pain. While this truth can feel unsettling, it is also liberating. It means that suffering is not permanent, and that joy can be found in the simplest passing moments. By noticing the small details, a sip of water, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet of dawn, we begin to appreciate what we might otherwise ignore. Gratitude shifts our attention from what is missing to what is present. It turns the ordinary into extraordinary. Mindfulness reveals that life's beauty is not hidden in grand achievements, but scattered everywhere, waiting to be noticed. When difficulties arise, the untrained mind reacts with panic resistance or denial, but mindfulness creates a pause between stimulus and response. In that pause lies the power to choose. You notice the racing heartbeat, the flood of fear, the swirl of thoughts, but instead of being consumed, you observe. This observation grants perspective. You are no longer imprisoned by your reactions. You are free to respond with intention. Ask yourself how many moments of your life have slipped away unnoticed. How many times have you been physically present but mentally absent, lost in thought? What might change if you began to notice more fully, not just the extraordinary, but the ordinary too? As you observe your own mind, you realize how fragile, distracted, and imperfect it is. Instead of condemning yourself, you learn to soften. This compassion naturally extends to others because you see that they too struggle with wandering thoughts, difficult emotions, and the chaos of life. Mindfulness, then, is not just awareness. It is kindness in the presence of awareness. Importantly, mindfulness is not an escape from life. It is not about withdrawing to a quiet corner and ignoring the world. It is about bringing clarity into whatever you are doing, whether working, conversing, eating, or resting. It integrates awareness into action. When practiced this way, mindfulness does not separate you from life. It immerses you more deeply into it. Mindfulness teaches us that peace is not found in controlling circumstances, but in meeting them with awareness. The noise of life does not disappear, but we learn not to be consumed by it. The storm may rage, but mindfulness roots us like a tree grounded in the present. Ultimately, the lesson of mindfulness is simple but profound. To live fully, you must live now, not in the shadows of the past, not in the fantasies of the future, but here in the reality unfolding before you. When you give your attention to the present, you reclaim your life from distraction and illusion. Though mindfulness is often associated with Eastern traditions, the Stoics practiced a form of it centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius began each day by writing in his journal, reminding himself to attend to the present and to live in alignment with virtue. Epictetus instructed his students to observe their impressions carefully before reacting, teaching them to pause and examine their thought. Both understood that awareness is the key to freedom. When you are mindful of your thoughts and emotions, they no longer control you. The Stoics, like mindfulness practitioners, saw that life is impermanent and fragile. Their response was to value each moment, to act with virtue now, and to release what lies beyond control. Mindfulness and Stoicism converge in this wisdom. Peace is not found in changing the world, but in mastering the attention you bring to it. Resilience is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to continue through it. It is the quiet strength that allows you to endure hardship, adapt to change, and rise again after setbacks. While some people seem naturally resilient, resilience is not a fixed trait. It is a skill, a practice, a way of living that can be cultivated. And in a world full of uncertainty, it is one of the most essential qualities we can develop. At its heart, resilience is about flexibility. A rigid tree snaps in the wind. A flexible one bends and survives. In the same way, people who demand that life conform to their expectations often break when those expectations are shattered. Resilient people, by contrast, adjust. They do not deny their pain, but they adapt to it, learning how to live with new realities rather than clinging to old ones. When faced with adversity, the resilient mind does not collapse into despair, but searches for meaning. It asks, what can I learn? How can I grow? Where might this lead me? This shift does not erase hardship, but it transforms it. A challenge that once felt like an end becomes a chapter in a larger story. Life is full of obstacles, and success often belongs not to the most talented, but to the most persistent. Resilient people keep moving even when progress is slow. They understand that each small step, each attempt, each effort builds momentum. Persistence is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It is the difference between stopping in defeat and discovering what lies beyond the struggle. People are not resilient in isolation. They are resilient in connection. Support from friends, family or community provides strength during hardship. Equally important is the resilience that comes from offering support to others. When we help someone else carry their burden, our own becomes lighter. Shared struggle creates shared strength. Ask yourself, when life knocks you down, what helps you rise again? Is it the memory of past endurance, the support of loved ones, the conviction that pain has purpose? By reflecting on these questions, you begin to recognize the pillars of your own resilience. Change is not optional. It is the nature of existence. Resisting it leads to frustration. Adapting to it leads to growth. Resilient people do not fear change. They learn to flow with it to discover new ways of being within it. They understand that identity and strength are not fixed, but evolving. Too often we berate ourselves for struggling as if suffering were a sign of weakness. But resilience does not mean never stumbling. It means allowing yourself to stumble and still move forward. Self-compassion provides the kindness necessary to endure hardship without adding the weight of self-criticism. Even in difficulty, there are things to appreciate: a supportive friend, a lesson learned, a moment of beauty. Gratitude shifts focus from what is broken to what remains, from scarcity to abundance. It does not deny pain, but it balances it with recognition of life's ongoing gifts. Finally, resilience is strengthened by purpose. People who have a clear sense of why they endure can survive almost anything. Purpose transforms suffering into sacrifice, hardship into service. When you know your struggle is connected to something larger than yourself, whether love, responsibility, or meaning, you can withstand far more than you thought possible. Resilience, then, is not a single act, but a constellation of practices: flexibility, perspective, persistence, connection, change, compassion, gratitude, and purpose. Each strengthens the others. Together, they create a life that can withstand storms without losing its center. So when the winds of hardship blow, remember you cannot always control their strength, but you can choose how you stand. You can break in rigidity, or you can bend in resilience. You can collapse in despair, or you can rise in courage. The choice is not easy, but it is always possible. The Stoics embodied resilience long before the term was common. Epictetus, born into slavery and later crippled, taught that no external hardship could destroy the freedom of the inner will. Marcus Aurelius, burdened with the responsibilities of empire and plagued by illness, reminded himself that obstacles were opportunities to practice endurance. Seneca wrote that adversity reveals the strength of the soul, much as fire reveals the strength of metal. For the Stoics, resilience was not about avoiding hardship, but about meeting it with virtue. Courage, patience, and wisdom were forged in the crucible of difficulty. Their lives testify that resilience is less about circumstances than about character. To live stoically is to accept hardship as part of nature, to persist in virtue, regardless of pain, and to find within adversity the chance to grow unshakable. A meaningful life is not necessarily the easiest or the most comfortable one. It is not measured by wealth status or possessions. It is measured by depth, by the degree to which your days are aligned with your values, connected to others, and infused with purpose. Many people chase happiness as if it were a prize, to be captured, only to find it slips through their hands. Meaning, however, does not slip away. It endures. It anchors. It gives context to both joy and suffering. Without knowing what truly matters to you, it is easy to drift into living someone else's script. Society pressures us with definitions of success, financial achievement, external recognition, material, abundance. But meaning arises when you ask deeper questions. What do I care about most? What principles am I unwilling to compromise? What kind of person do I wish to become? When your actions align with your answers, life gains coherence. Meaning is not hidden in distant achievements, but in the way you inhabit this moment. A meaningful life is not built in abstract. It is built in daily choices. How you treat others, how you handle adversity, how you spend your time. Each decision, however small, is a brushstroke in the larger portrait of your life. Human beings are not solitary creatures. We find significance in connection, love, friendship, community. These give context to our struggles and amplify our joys. Meaning grows when we contribute to others, when we serve, when we recognize ourselves as part of a larger whole. Even in hardship, relationships provide the soil where meaning flourishes. Suffering, paradoxically, often deepens meaning. Pain strips away illusions, forcing us to confront what is essential. Many who endure hardship discover new purpose in its aftermath to help others, to advocate for change, to live more fully. Meaning does not erase suffering, but it gives it context. With meaning, suffering can be endured. Without meaning, even comfort feels empty. Purpose need not be grand. It can be quiet, humble, rooted in daily life. Raising a child with love, creating beauty through art, working diligently at a craft, offering kindness to strangers, these are all purposes that sustain meaning. Purpose answers the question, why does my life matter? And in doing so, provides strength during difficult times. When we pause to recognize the gifts already present, the breath in our lungs, the support of loved ones, the chance to grow, we stop chasing life as if it were elsewhere. Gratitude roots us in the abundance of the present, reminding us that meaning is not always about more, but often about recognizing enough. To know what matters is not enough. We must live accordingly. Responsibility means carrying the weight of our choices, understanding that they shape not only our lives, but the lives of others. This responsibility is not a burden, but a gift. It is the privilege of being an agent in the world capable of shaping reality through action. Ask yourself, if you were to look back at your life from its end, what would make you feel it was meaningful? Is it what you achieved or how you lived? Is it the possessions you gathered or the love you gave and received? These questions clarify what truly deserves your attention. When we remember that time is finite, priorities sharpen. We no longer waste energy on trivial pursuits. We invest in what endures. Death, far from diminishing meaning, intensifies it. Knowing that life is brief makes each moment precious, each choice significant. Ultimately, living a meaningful life is not about perfection, but about intention. It is about showing up authentically, aligning with your values, nurturing connections, finding purpose, practicing gratitude, and accepting the impermanence of existence. Meaning is not given. It is created moment by moment through the way we choose to live. So perhaps the essential invitation is this: stop asking, am I happy? And start asking, am I living meaningfully? Happiness comes and goes, but meaning endures. In the end, a meaningful life is not about escaping hardship or achieving perfection, but about living with depth, connection, and purpose. About leaving behind not just accomplishments, but a legacy of love and virtue. For the Stoics, the ultimate measure of life was not pleasure or power, but virtue. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that meaning lay in acting justly, speaking truth, and accepting fate. Seneca wrote that life is long enough if it is lived well, urging us to focus not on duration, but on depth. Epictetus emphasized that a meaningful life comes from living in harmony with nature and reason, fulfilling the role we are given with integrity. In their view, meaning was inseparable from virtue, courage in the face of fear, wisdom in the face of ignorance, justice in the face of selfishness, temperance in the face of excess. To live meaningfully, then, is to practice virtue in each moment, no matter how ordinary. For the Stoics, this is the only path to a life that endures beyond death in memory and in example. Life is often imagined as something that will begin later, after the promotion, after the success, after the storm is past. Yet again and again, wisdom points us back to the same truth. Life is here now, in this imperfect moment. The reflections we've traveled through 12 different lenses on living remind us that fulfillment is not a distant prize, but a way of inhabiting the present. The first lesson is presence, the ability to honor the now as the only place life can be lived. From presence flows action, even in imperfection. We cannot wait for ideal conditions to begin. Acting with what we have as we are liberates us from paralysis and builds momentum. Alongside this courage comes the freedom of releasing perfectionism, understanding that growth is born through mistakes, not flawlessness. Dreams matter, but they must be grounded in reality. When they distract us from living, they become mirages. When they guide us while we remain rooted in the present, they provide vision and direction. This balance allows us to rediscover joy in the journey itself, not just at the finish line. Adversity inevitably arrives, and with it tests of patience, strength, and integrity. Yet difficulties are not merely obstacles, they are opportunities. They strip away illusions, clarify values, and invite resilience. Perspective shapes how we meet them. Events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation that determines whether they defeat or transform us. Acceptance deepens this wisdom. By making peace with what we cannot change, we reclaim energy to focus on what we can. Mindfulness grounds these lessons in daily practice. It teaches awareness, gratitude, and the ability to pause before reacting. From mindfulness grows resilience, the capacity to bend without breaking, to adapt, and to keep moving forward. And ultimately, all of these threads converge in the pursuit of meaning. A meaningful life is not about comfort or perfection, but about values, relationships, purpose, gratitude, and the courage to live authentically. Taken together, these lessons do not promise an easy life. They do not erase suffering or guarantee success. What they offer instead is a way of living, one that transforms obstacles into teachers, imperfection into authenticity, and fleeting moments into sacred ground. So ask yourself, where are you postponing life? Which difficulties could become opportunities? What values are calling you to live more fully now? These questions are not abstract. They shape every choice you make. In the end, a meaningful life is not defined by how perfectly it was lived, but by the presence, courage, resilience, and love you brought to it. Life is not later, it is here, and it begins again in this very breath.